Okay, question 23. As I was looking at question 23, I did not actually care for a couple of the answer choices because a couple of those choices can be a little confusing. So on your paper, let's scratch out that negative 0.03 and let's put it as a positive 0.1. Okay, let's compare that. And, sorry, positive 0.3. Okay. When we get to the final, the numbers will be a little bit easier to, say, recognize. So let's work with that. Which one is the weakest? Weakest is closer to 0. And in this case, of those values closest to 0, we have then a more scattered, can't tell if it's linear or not association. Now, of those values that are there, the number that is closest to 0 is letter D. C is, and by changing that 0.3, it is also close to 0. But because D is closest to 0, that is going to be more scattered about, and you cannot really tell it's linear or not. Now, 24 is the strongest linear association. So I would see something here that might be the strongest linear association. So probably see a nice line already forming, and the best one that is letter B. I would see something that is pretty darn linear going down because it's negative. The other answer choices, A is not, C is not. Now, letter D would be pretty good. I'm also going to see it as pretty darn linear, increasing. But because 0.99 is closer to -1 than 0.95 is to +1, the negative 0.99 wins out. Now, 25 on this one, it looks scattered about. But this one is a little bit of a challenge too, because I could definitely see why somebody would say there is no pattern here. But what I'm noticing here is a couple things going on. I see this as kind of alternating as from negatives to positives. And then I also see kind of this a little bit of an arc also, kind of a curve pattern happening in there. So on this particular one, I'm going to say that probably the residual plot is going to represent that it's not linear, because there is a bit of a pattern hiding in there. Now, when we get to the final, it will not be as, say, ambiguous as maybe what number 25 is looking like. It is going to be a bit more resembling something that is a lot more obvious, which I think we've talked about maybe before. Oh, right here. On this one right here that I have, question 22. It'll be a lot more obvious with what we got, okay? So if we see absolutely no pattern in there, then it's linear. But if we see some type of pattern hiding in there, then we say it would not be linear. Okay, 26 real quick. Match up the R values with the particular plot, and negative 0.85, that's pretty close to -1, so I should see a negative association. I should see a fairly linear line happening. And when I look at my options there, they all are decreasing, but the one that looks a little bit more linear is scatter plot B. And then I look at my other choices, negative 0.65 and negative 0.45. Closer you are to 0, the more scattered it's going to be. And when I look at negative 0.65 with what remains, A is more scattered about. C is still kind of a line you can see, linear association holding in there. And then finally, right here, that is scatter plot A.